Self-confidence. Self-confidence is one of the most necessary personal points that determine the existence of a character and his compatibility with himself and his society. In addition to that, it's skill accepting and pleasurable the competencies that God has granted to the individual, adapting to them, and the potential to face everyday conditions of all types more effectively. Self-confidence provides to the person an experience of pride, and pride in his skills and competencies. Defining self-confidence is a kind of systematic and deliberate internal safety that depends on the individual's self-assurance in his aptitudes, abilities and skills, the extent to which he is able to put in force his dreams, and his self-confidence in the opportunity of achieving them, and as a result attaining psychological and social harmony, and the barriers encountered in an advantageous and optimistic manner, in addition to balanced and consensual responses all through publicity to various stimuli, and self-confidence expresses the pride and self and community acceptance of the man or woman and the awareness of others of his skills and competencies. 1. Strengthening self-confidence. Self-confidence is one of the non-public characteristics inherent in the environment. There are many ways, methods, and steps that an individual have to take in order to have his self-confidence, and to hold the permanence of this self-belief in mild of all conditions and circumstances, and to boost it on an ongoing basis, and the following are some steps to assist in how to improve and hold self-confidence. 2. For the security of the general appearance, and sporting clean, elegant, and suitable garments for each scenario and situation, paying interest to non-public hygiene, keeping off the habits that generate other people's aversion to the individual, such as spitting on the ground while speaking to others, burping loudly, and different inappropriate habits, in addition to greeting people with a cheerful and pleased face and a quiet voice, far from leaving the persona of fear and depression. All this reflects the individual's self-expression to those around him, and accordingly the gaining of human beings and society's acceptance of him. The character ought to face up to his fears and make room for himself to exercise new experiences and exceptional talents, and to amplify knowledge and perceptions. Self-training to engage in social relationships, participate in them, extend the circle of conversation with others, and attend events and gatherings. Attempting to summon optimism in more than a few circumstances, and confidence that no scenario lasts as it is. Accustom the self and the self to superb wondering and nice responses, in addition to taking the initiative to give in all its material and ethical forms, and no longer hesitating to furnish advice and guidance in one-of-a-kind situations. Loving oneself in all its details and with the entirety it possesses, accepting the skills of the individual, and the steady undertaking to improve and train them and add everything new to them. Exercising oneself to respond to all the questions asked, even if with the aid of delaying the answer, heading off declaring lack of knowledge, continuing education in talking with others and taking part in discussions and dialogues, conquering inner fear and tension, and overcoming it with the aid of persistence and insistence on making growth in the mechanism of participation in each discussion taking place, and striving to leading and directing the conversation. The tendency to acquire more new expertise from the human beings of the news, and as a consequence elevate their role via taking walks in their footsteps and benefiting from their experiences, and fending off the mistakes they made. Avoiding comparing oneself with others, no longer waiting for praise from them, showing them in real abilities, and no longer hiding the shortcomings in some abilities, for all people has excessive competence in a certain field, and weak spot in another. Moving away from the individual's feel of himself that he is an undesirable person and an outcast in the direction of any shortcoming of others. Moving away from hasty decision-making, and the importance of systematically reading the chances and selections available, separating the negative and fine results of a decision, and choosing the gorgeous alternative or decision. Try to loosen up intermittently at some point of the day. Constituents of self-confidence. Parts are the features and instincts that lead a person to vanity and self-confidence. where these fundamentals set up confidence, and as a consequence the person keeps interior and psychological strength, and supports it as a whole lot as feasible with self-stability, mental health, and acceptable personal construction. These factors have been as follows: 3. 4. The physical fundamentals. The individual possesses sound bodily abilities free from ailments and impairments, congenital anomalies and persistent injuries, as nicely as a precise outward look and personal attractiveness. All of these elements make him have a wholesome bodily competence that does no longer hinder him from carrying out his tasks and working towards his lifestyles in an ordinary and stable manner. Mental foundations. The mental components are the integrity of the individual's mental development, in addition to the lack of a stage of intelligence, the capacity to higher mental skills to acquire new experiences, and to keep away from as an awful lot as possible from painful and unwanted experiences, in addition to the ability to use fertile imagination in various fields such as poetry and innovation. Everything that is new in the A number of sciences, and memory is of extraordinary significance in retrieving statistics and employing it in the mechanism of the individual's responses to more than a few stimuli. Affective components. These factors imply the individual's wholesome psychological development, freedom from intellectual illnesses, obsessions, tension, anxiety, pathological suspicion, the capacity to manipulate mood emotions, and a balanced self-evaluation except sterile uplift that drives him to vanity, and no insulting humiliation that pushes him to submission, to the capacity to be free from the results of unhealthy upbringing and undesirable experiences in the developmental levels of childhood, and the individual to have exact Islamic morals closer to himself and his surroundings. Social foundations. The household and society. It is the primary constructing block in the harmonic psychological development of the human being. The family acceptance of the person due to the fact that his start and the feeling of satisfaction with him constitutes the private picture and the healthful societal and psychological shape of the individual, due to the fact childhood and for the duration of its a number of developmental stages, in addition to a sound upbringing. All of this produces a self-confident character who is accountable for change. Economic fundamentals. It is feasible that there is a direct relationship between the cloth degree of the man or woman and the make bigger in his income with the extend in his self-confidence rate, but the financial fundamentals do no longer have a direct effect on self-confidence, and its low or high. Many of the lively characters for the duration of records prolonged from families of modest cloth quality,